A thriller in Villadelphia, Emi Buendia turns into prime Lionel Messi, and Villa's youth team are producing some very talented players. Welcome to All Villa, No Filler. Please like and subscribe if you love the Villa. So Aston Villa's summer series got underway in Philadelphia. Now we're rechristening it Villadelphia from now on. The biggest thing to hit Philadelphia since the Eagles winning the Super Bowl has to be Aston Villa and Emi Buendia. Well, 3-3 with Newcastle. And the player who really caught the eye was Emi Buendia, a player we have spoken about at length on this podcast for a long time as someone who needs to show a bit more consistency. Well, there was some real fire in his performance against Newcastle. He played on the left, kind of where Jacob Ramsey tends to play in this system with Unai Emery. And there was just something about the way Buendia approached the game where he was, in tight positions. He'd keep the ball. He'd be moving into space, causing Newcastle a lot of problems. Every time he got the ball, he'd drive forward and find a pass try to find a pass that would cause Newcastle problems. He got 2 goals on the night and 1 big assist. So that's not too bad, is it? Look, Buendia in a lot of games has been very effective for Aston Villa, but it's also felt for a while that it's almost like he needs competition. He needs games wherein sometimes he can come out and be a bit of an impact sub, come on for 15 minutes at the end of a game and change it. But now with Diaby's arrival at Aston Villa, you do wonder whether maybe that has sort of set a fire within Buendia. Because let's face it, hopefully he can find the consistency that can get him into the Argentina national team. Because if he wants to be a regular Argentinian international, he's competing with the best attackers in the world. And that means that he has to show some consistency. So if he can show the kind of form he showed against Newcastle in the summer series, hopefully that means he can go on to show the same kind of form in the Premier League. But that ultimately is where the acid test is. He needs to show that kind of form going forward in the Premier League, not just in pre-season. But that was a really positive display from Buendia, who, as I said, looked like a prime Lionel Messi. Lionel Messi probably looking up from Inter Miami thinking, my goodness, I should have been there that night to take some notes on Emi Buendia. It all started in the first 10 minutes. Lovely ball from his Argentinian compatriot, Emi Martinez. Best keeper in the world, is he? Maybe. Ball forward into Buendia, and Tonali, the new Newcastle signing from AC Milan, got physically pushed out the way. Buendia pushes on, and I was thinking, Philogene right there, play it to him, and then what do I know? What do I know? Buendia holds onto the ball, outmuscles another Newcastle defender, waits, and then hits Watkins, sets him up for a perfect, easy one-on-one chance. And Watkins takes his chance, and that's now 2 goals in 2 in pre-season for Watkins. That can never hurt. A striker getting goals, hitting the net, that's always good. So, lovely goal to start with. And Villa just kind of gave Newcastle loads and loads of problems from the start, really. It felt like Tonali particularly struggled to deal with Villa's midfield, and McGinn coming deep was another thing. McGinn was playing off Watkins like he did against Liverpool away at Anfield, where we caused Liverpool a lot of problems and couldn't really get playing from deep because McGinn would come deep or Watkins to stop them and disrupt their pattern of play. And I think that's something similar happening against Newcastle because, again, second goal. So a lovely ball from deep in from Concert into McGinn. McGinn turns, outmuscles Tonali, pushes forward and finds Douglas Luiz, and Luiz with a lovely pass, first time into Buendia, who then runs at the Newcastle defender. And reminded me a little bit of the goal against Everton at Goodison he got last season, where took it past him and just with his left foot pinged it in. So, really good positive signs from Buendia, particularly in his first 10 minutes. And for the first 25 minutes, Villa looked very good. And you may have noticed for the 2 goals, I mentioned that the ball came from deep. First goal, Martinez. Second goal, Concert. Some really good distributions. It was almost like Villa were like a lightning strike from deep to front, back to front goal. Ball on the floor, quick into the midfield, quick into the striker, goal. So really positive signs there about how fast Villa were able to get the ball from back to front and cause Newcastle problems. Now, it wasn't all good in the first half, though, because Newcastle ultimately fought back. And I would say that Newcastle fans should probably be quite excited about their young player, Anderson. He got the first goal. running from deep. The high line got caught, running from deep. Anderson, one-on-one. Konsa did get back, but Anderson held it up, and then good finish past Martinez. Second goal, Martinez over to Cash. Cash into Kamara. Kamara had been caught already once or twice. Caught by Anderson, who then took a shot, good save, but made its way to Alexander Isak, who made it 2-2. So there were quite a few occasions in the first half where the high line did get caught. Just basic balls in behind, really. It reminded me a little bit of the Liverpool at home Boxing Day, which is the one game I think you could really say the high line got caught a lot. But Villa started to perfect that as the season went on. So I'd like to think maybe this is just a bit of rustiness. It's just something they're going to have to get used to. But teams will have a game plan for that high line this season. And I would imagine that going to St James's Park in a few weeks, we are going to see Newcastle attempt to play balls from deep into midfielders who will run from deep and try and break that high line to get one-on-ones. It is just what's going to happen. So, of course, Villa are just going to have to be very, very aware of that as the season progresses and from the first day, really. Now, some of the things I liked, I thought Douglas Luiz was absolutely fantastic. Again, it is just pre-season. The acid test is always the Premier League, actual competitive football. But, you know, they're playing against Premier League players, and to see Luiz playing at such a high level, again, it looked like a continuation of the form he showed at the end of last season. Luiz looks like a really high-quality midfielder who is probably going to go on, and I think this season, if I were to predict it, go on and do some really special things this season, become a real talismanic player for Aston Villa in midfield. Second half, again, Newcastle started a bit better, I would say, but then the third goal came from Diego Carlos, got the ball from deep into Kellyman. Kellyman, lovely little pass, 17 years of age, to play a pass like that into Buendia. Buendia then, again, a lovely penetrative pass into Philogene, and made a good run. Philogene held it, waited for the run of Kellyman, who then was hit the ball. Unlucky to good save from Newcastle goalkeeper onto the post, and Buendia followed up for his second goal of the night. Really good sign from, I would say, Kellyman, 17 years of age. You'd think probably alone is in the offing, but really positive display from him, I thought. Philogene, we've talked about it on this podcast before. That year at Cardiff has got to really help, and I thought the interview with John McGinn afterwards was very interesting because he mentioned Philogene. And he said that, you know, last year you could see the talent, but there were certain things that he wasn't quite ready for. A year away at Cardiff in the Championship, getting kicked around, playing against high-quality opponents week in and week out, that can only have helped him. And so there were signs that Philogene is a player who could stick around this year, at least until January. He's going to have competition. You know, Leon Bailey's there, Moussa Diaby's now there. But there were certain things that I thought, I think he can do this, Philogene. Obviously, Unai Emery will see what he sees, work out what there is to work out. But there was enough there to suggest that Philogene can compete in the Premier League. He's already got experience in the Premier League, obviously, from 2 seasons ago. But that year at Cardiff, Young Player of the Year there, that surely has helped him. And what John McGinn was saying, that, you know, the coaches have been speaking well of him. You would think that might hint that he's going to stick around this season, and particularly might play a big role in cups, hopefully Europe, and maybe as an impact player coming on in the last 20 minutes. And who knows, maybe he could be a project for Unai Emery this season, who might be able to do things, you know, or rise to a certain level that right now you're probably not expecting. So excited to see what Philogene can do. That was a really positive display from him and from Amari Kellyman as well. Just 17 years of age, looks a very intelligent player, unlucky not to score on 2 occasions, caused Newcastle a lot of problems. Big, tall lad. We'll see. You can't hype them up too much. It's just pre-season. But, you know, positives certainly we're seeing by them. And, Kellyman, you'd think probably alone in the offing if it is to come this season. But, another problem was that there was just a simple long ball over the top to Anthony Gordon, which then led to a shot into Olsen, parries it out. Callum Wilson makes it 3-3. So the goals Villa conceded, they weren't great. It was all kind of their own undoing, really. Whereas the goals Villa scored were all really impressive. Balls from back to front, really quick-paced. Good to see. But yes, those goals conceded were something of a concern, something you hope they're going to iron out in the coming games, and hopefully by, the Valencia, Lazio friendlies, you'd like to think the high line will be a bit more set, a little less rusty, and then hopefully a few players will be a little less rusty as well. Talking of rusty, you've got to mention Diego Carlos in the second half. His distribution wasn't really there at all, and he got caught a couple of times, just a bit off the pace, which is understandable. The guy's been at football for a year, so hopefully, a run of games in pre-season will help him get back to sharpness and back to fitness, which he needs to be. Another positive, two players that came on in the second half, Youri Tielemans and Pau Torres. Pau Torres, poetic footballer. There was some really beautiful distribution from him. He looks like a player who could play in midfield, could play a left back. Just a smart player. Very good distribution. Lovely balls into the front line along the deck from him. It's what we know we're getting from Pau Torres, isn't it? Spanish international. We saw it at Villarreal. We've seen it with Spain. Unai Emery's seen it himself in person. That distribution was really, really good yesterday, I thought, against Newcastle. And Youri Tielemans, very calm, very composed on the ball. Lovely light for light with Douglas Luiz, to be honest. So that was a real positive to see as well. It feels like if, a defender's injured or, a midfielder's injured, or you're making substitutions late in the game, you replace them with high quality when you've got the depth we have now in midfield and in defence. That was a really, I thought, positive display from Tielemans and Pau Torres. That backup keeper, though, just doesn't quite convince you, does it? There was one occasion Olsen passed it straight to, I think it was Callum Wilson. The distribution just hasn't been there with him, has it? I don't want to speak ill of Villa players, of course, but you got to be honest. I just don't quite know if Emi Martinez gets injured at any point this season, or let's say Ollie Watkins as well. I'm not quite sure the backup is there yet. We'll see with Cameron Archer. Obviously, I really think that he's passed every test so far, and there's certainly far more to come from him in his career, and I'm excited to see what he does with Villa in the coming weeks and months. But in goal, if Martinez ain't there, you are worrying a bit. That's something that I think Monchi and Unai Emery might just look at in the coming weeks before the season starts. Also, fullbacks, I wasn't quite convinced by Dean and Matty Cash yesterday. Alex Moreno not being there is a big loss because he really did fit in so well at Villa. I do wonder if someone like a Conte could go out right, Diego Carlos could go out right on occasion, or even Pau Torres to the left, or Mings to the left. I mean, there's so many options, but they're all central defenders, aren't they? I wasn't quite convinced by the fullbacks yesterday. We'll see how it progresses in the next few weeks. But that, I think, might be an area of contention for Villa and the way that Unai Emery wants to play. We'll see. The transfer window's still open. There still might be some movement in the coming weeks. So overall, it's just pre-season. I get it. I know that you shouldn't hype up these players. You shouldn't read too much into pre-season. But it can't hurt to see players in good form like Buendia. It can't hurt to see players like Ollie Watkins just scoring goals. That's got to help them. It's got to give them confidence. And it can't help to see some of the new signings come in and just, look quite comfortable immediately. Good on the ball, composed on the ball. These are high quality international players. So, of course, they should. And then also our youth players, to see some of them, looking at home with Premier League players on the pitch, like a Philogene and Kellyman. That was good to see as well. So why can't we be positive about it? Of course, the acid test comes at St James's Park in a few weeks, but that was a good display. Really fun. Great to see the Aston Villa fans loving life out in Philadelphia. Luis Miguel Echegaray out there. You got Villa on tour making great videos. You got Jack Grimsey as well, man who's been on this podcast too. Great to see it. Toronto Lions as well. So many out there. Look, just give them a follow. Check out their content, what they're doing. The Villa fan base, we're all just one big family, aren't we? So, good to see. Emi Buendia is now Lionel Messi. Up the mighty Villa.